it's gone. Uncle Sam does take his portion right back out of that check that Uncle Sam wrote you, but still, it's just not a bad deal. But Sergeant Hall mentioned, though, this is a tri-service program. It's DOD, Department of Defense. So the scholarship itself is exactly the same whether you're talking to us, the Navy, or the Air Force. Okay, so the basics of that, even the bonus amount is also the same. The difference comes in after you're done with school. The number of programs you can apply for and that sort of thing. So if you're interested, I urge you to look at all of them. Okay? We are a good fit for a lot of people, but we are not the best fit for everybody. So you really need to look around and see what fits you best. Like I said before, if you have a family history, you know, your grandfather was in the Navy, your dad was in the Navy, your great-grandfather, by all means, go to the Navy. You know, it's still, we're all, everything now is becoming tri-service. You know, they call it purple. So, you know, we're going to run into positions of all branches at some point, especially if you're going to medical centers, which is down at Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio is becoming a Department of Defense level medical center. So they have all branches working in there. So it's a good way to go.
The residencies. Yes. Army has their residencies. Yes. Navy has their residencies. Yes. So if you're an Army, can you apply for a Navy residency?
Typically, it doesn't go that route. It goes the other way. The other services can apply to ours, but because we have so many numbers, we're able to fill our residencies from within.
And there are medical centers that are considered to be Navy medical centers?
Yes, Bethesda. Right. I'm not sure if they have more than, well, actually they might have Great Plains too, which I think is outside of Chicago. But the Air Force is the smaller of the three. They only have one medical center, and that's down in San Antonio. And that's actually going away, Wilford Hall. Because of Brooke Army Medical Center moving to a DOD medical center, there's no reason for them to have that one. And that's their teaching institute. So I don't know how that's going to play out long-term with the Air Force.
Now help me with the residency and the payoff time.
Yep.
You go 4 years to med school and you're being paid for those 4 years. So
right.
That's 4 years.
Right.
So some residencies are only 3 years. In fact, many are only 3 years.
Right.
But then you can go for some that are 4, 5, 6, and then you
right.
go into fellowship and all. So the residency, you are allowed how many years for a residency without incurring any more time?
Up to 4.
Okay,
as long as it's equal to 4, okay. Then you'll only go the 4 years after.
You go 4 years of med school, go 4 years to residency, and the residency sort of, you guys realize you're out on your own doing that.
Yep.
But you only pay back 4 years, and those 4 years you're paying back are not for the residency, but for the med school.
Right.
And you're going to be making money while you're in that residency. But if you go beyond the 4 years, like you go 5 years, now you got to add 1 more year to the 4 years that you had for med school, and now you're up to 5-year commitment.
Exactly.
If you go into surgery, you can go 6 years. So, and then if you do a fellowship, that adds on above that, right?
And I say it's a great program. I never heard of the thing before. I've been recruiting for a year. I don't know how people don't know about it, but my whole function is to give you the information. See, my title's a recruiter, but honestly, if you take the program, that's great. If you don't, I don't really care. It's a great program. If you decide after having the information that's not for you, then my job has been done. You at least made an evaluation based on all the information that was available. Okay, so like I say, I think it's great. I wouldn't have been a physician anyway because I can't handle the stuff that I'm doing. I wish I did.
Could
Yeah.
talk about something else? All right, the residency thing, Matt brought it up, but you guys need to ask him some more questions about that residency. Matt, you satisfied with your answer?
I mean, yeah, but I have more questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, when we think of the Army, you're like, commit yourself, but you have no choice of where you go. Do you have a choice of where you go to residency or after residency?
Yes, you have a choice in both.
Okay.
Now, see, with the residency, you're going to apply to those residencies just the same process that you would to a civilian residency. Okay. Now, depending on which one you choose or apply for, they're only given at certain institutions in the Army. And I did not bring that list of which ones they are. So if you know specifically which ones, I will get you the answer on what locations have those.
What are you thinking about doing?
Me, I'm going to medical school.
I know, but do you know what specialty you're in?
Pediatrics.
Pediatrics. So that'd be Brooke Army Medical
Is it
Center.
Brooke? Okay, that one's in San Antonio.
San Antonio.
Okay.
Because some of them are done at multiple locations, like family practice, it's a little more broad, so they have one at Fort Bragg, Walter Reed, I think up in Washington State, so there's more options of where to go. Now,
But keep in mind though, the Army has one place for pediatrics, which is Brooke Army Medical Center, which is awesome, and it's great. But if you didn't go with the Army, you'd have about 60 places you could go to pediatric residents.
So with the Army, you can only go to the Army's approved resident?
yeah, well, the Army has its own residency program, so
Okay.
they're not really
So-
Army approved, they're Army residencies. It is possible to apply to a civilian residency, but from my experience, it's
Army
very
does not
limited.
like for you to do
Right.
that.
Basically, if there's an open slot in an Army residency, you're going to go to an Army residency. If for some reason they're full with that, with your skill set that you want to go for, and you have the scores to justify it, then you could possibly apply to a civilian one.
And if you have the guts enough, and sometimes in the military we say the gonads enough, to go to the Army residencies, because you have to interview for those. And if you turn out to be such an ass that they don't want you, and you want to play, you guys know this, right? And they turn you down, then you don't have an Army residency to go to. You say, okay, now I want to go to a military, I'm going to go to a regular residency. Then you maybe have beat the system so you can get out of the Army residency into, now what do you guys have to say about that?
Now, what's possible there is if you don't get into an Army residency, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to a civilian residency. What
Right.
it means
and I'm
is
saying you're playing,
right.
you're taking a big chance,
Right.
but I know some people that have done that.
Right.
I've had people
And that,
tell me
and,
that.
and that is that's a game you could play.
And
I don't know.
And this guy that did it, I was like, damn, man,
Yeah.
you did that?
That is,
He did it.
that's brazen.
Yeah, right.
But if you don't get into an Army residency, what normally happens is you will be put on staff as a general medical officer. Now, and you'll have to wait a year and then apply for that residency program.
Well, if you don't get an Army residency or a civilian, right? So-
Right. Now, they still have to approve you, though, to go to that civilian residency.
Right.
Just because you don't get in doesn't mean they'll approve you to go to a civilian residency.
And so they could say, you could play the game, get a civilian resident and say, yeah, we'll take you. And the Army could say,
They could
no,
still say no.
sorry.
Yep.
So why would you not get a Army residency? Just
Well,
if they were full?
the scores are just as competitive for the Army residencies as they are for the
Right.
civilian residencies.
Okay.
So, it's
So
still
people will get turned
and
down?
Right now, it could be slightly different though. Where, from what I understand, dermatology is like the hit list for civilian position. I guess it has to do with working hours. But I don't know that in the Army that it's that route. So it could be slightly different that way. And we can tap into the numbers for any of them to find out specifically for you what the scores were for what the average score was for those people who were getting into the residencies that you're interested in.
And also correct me here if I'm wrong, but the military wants to have so many people in certain residencies. They say we want to have 2,000 surgeons. We only want to have 100 obstetricians. So they are going to want to meet quotas in certain places. So that's going to influence how you actually match. So realize that. They say that they have and they do. They have all these different residencies and all, but you need to realize that the military is going to say what kind of doctors they want and how many they want, and then they're going to not force, could force you to help them meet their quota.
Yeah, if you keep applying to the same residency in the Army and you don't get in, like I said, they put you on staff as a general medical officer, you can keep reapplying. At some point, though, you're going to get tired of bouncing your head into the wall. You might apply to something else. Now, while you're on staff as a GMO, the good thing about that is that time does come off of your obligation. So if you could choose to say, hey, I'm not going to do a residency, I'm just going to go do my 4 years as a GMO, then I'm going to get out and do a residency. I'm not advocating that. I don't think that's really the path. But that time does count, and you would knock that time out immediately.
And I'm not trying to say that this is what the Army does. All three of them do this. This is the same for all three. So,
And I mean, it's obvious we need a certain skill set more than some others.
And you guys realize, especially medicine, if whatever residency you go into is what you're going to be for a doctor. I mean, if the Army says, we need surgeons, and you want to be a dermatologist, they say, if you want to get in and get out and do your thing, you got to be a surgeon, then you're going to have to be a surgeon. There'd be a very slim chance that you get to be a dermatologist. So again, you realize you're working for the man here, okay? Just be aware of that. You're working for the man.
It all does come really down to test scores. It's how competitive you are. If your test scores are great, then you're top of the list. And once again, like I say, networking. You use those summers wisely if you take the program, and make sure the people that are sitting on that board, they know who you are when your packet comes across the desk.
The other thing now, how do they actually apply for the HPSP? Do they have to go through you, or can they go online and actually fill out an application?
They have to go through us.
They have to go through a recruiter.
Right, because it's an application process that we can use the letters of recommendation, your AMCAS, and all that stuff that you've already done. So for us, it's the easiest package we put together. It's simple. It's simple. But there's also a physical involved, which is why you can't just apply straight online. The physical, you have to meet accession standards to be able to come in. Height, weight, and then there's some other medical issues too that they look at to see whether or not you're fit for military service. Okay? Now, not to say that there's a long laundry list of disqualifying conditions, but don't let that stop you, because there's always the possibility of a waiver. So, but to do that, you still have to get the physical. And then what I recommend, if you're interested, we do physical exam tours in San Antonio. It's fully paid for by the Army. So we send you to San Antonio, fly you down on a Sunday afternoon. You get the tour around San Antonio for a little bit. Monday morning, they'll take you in to Brooke Army Medical Center. You'll get a briefing, you'll do your physical. Later that afternoon, they'll take you on another, bit more of a tour of the area. And then before you fly out, you're able to sit down or get a briefing, talk, interact with a physician or whatever your specialty is. Once again, especially if you already know what you want to do, then they will do their best to hook you up with that specific specialty. Okay, so that you can ask the questions that are in your mind about how is it different, being an Army pediatrician versus the outside. If they know, they might not know what it's like on the outside, but they can always tell you what it's like on the inside.
When do you need to be along in the process to get this kind of physical?
You don't need to be anywhere in the process. All you need to do is tell me that you are interested. You don't have to sign anything. All I have to do is get some documents together, because the Army has a system. We have to put you into a system to be able to get you a plane ticket and make reservations for you. I say the flight doesn't cost you anything. We put you up in a hotel in San Antonio, and we give you that per diem rate while you're there. So, we even cover your mileage to the airport. If you want to park your vehicle at the airport for 3 days, we cover that. You just have to file a voucher, which if you go through me, I send the voucher with you. All you have to do is sign it and bring it back. And if you give us the electronic funds numbers to your bank account, it's direct deposited in your account. If not, now I know, see, that's where I don't like asking that. But if not, then you just get a hard copy check. It just takes 6 to 8 weeks. So that's the difference. But there's no obligation whatsoever for doing a physical exam tour. Okay, so if you have any interest at all, then I recommend you do it. I'll send you down there. It's a fantastic way to get exposed to Army medicine, because that's really the home for us. The Army Medical Department is housed in San Antonio. Yep.
So they have veterinarians there?
Yes. Yeah, we sent a student from Furman to one in August. And she went down, and what they did when they got ready to do the matching up with different people, they took her separately and hooked her up with a vet officer down there.
And how long is that trip? 3 days?
It's only 3 days. It's fast and furious. We fly you out on Sunday, physical Monday, and then we fly you back on Tuesday. So depending on how early you want to get down there, I'm the one who arranges your flight. So you let me know when you want to fly. If you want to get down there early and kind of hang around San Antonio for a bit, Riverwalk's nice.
And if you do this physical, how soon will you know that you passed it?
You will know before you come back.
Really? Yeah. And will that physical count as the physical?
That is the physical. That's what it's perfect for on our side, because it's a much simpler process. We don't send everybody down there. If you're a nurse wanting to come in, sorry, we can't send you down there. But for these specialties, we're allowed to send you down there.
What about